It's April 6th, 2023. This is Rook. Hi there, welcome to episode 253 of Rook. I'm Jian Gomeshi. Hello to you from Toronto, Canada. Salam dostan aziz, durud bar shoma. Hope you're doing well wherever you are tuning in from around the world. We have an interview coming up that I suspect will be a powerful one, will have some impact. There is a man right now sitting outside the UK Foreign Office in London who has been there for 43 days on a hunger strike. Vahid Beheshti, a Iranian-British journalist who has been on this hunger strike for 43 days. I suspect there are people who are listening who may even know about him now, because even though when he started it was kind of on a lark, it seemed, and it didn't get a lot of attention in the beginning, although he had some high-profile visitors.
Yes, early on, too.
In the first week, yeah. At this point, he's starting to get some international attention. I've seen some major newspapers write about him, and he's been on some big, couple of big networks. So it's kind of punching beyond just the Iranian community too. So why has he been on a 43-day hunger strike? He is on a mission to get the UK government, that he believes is a key player here, because he figures there's sort of a domino effect if the UK government does this, for the UK government to put the IRGC on the terrorist list once and for all.
Yes.
This is SEPA. This is the government arm of, this is connected to the Iranian Islamic Republic regime. And we know there's been this campaign in Canada and the EU and everywhere, including the UK, for the IRGC to be put on the terrorist list. Nothing has worked. Now, a hunger strike is actually getting a fair bit of attention. Of course, we're worried about his health. It's, this is, what's 43? It's like 6 weeks.
It's almost, yeah.
Right?
Exactly. So
I'll be asking about his health, but I'll also why this was the time to do this, why he felt, he's been an activist. I mean, he is, back in Iran, he was arrested a couple of times. I'm not sure if it was for activism, but, and then he fled Iran about 24 years ago. He's been active in the uprising. I wonder what the precipitant was for this to be the moment to go on a hunger strike, though. But, Damish Ganem.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing what you're doing out there. Again, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would counsel him to save his health first.
Well, that's what I was going to say, going back to, saying that he's had some visitors along the line. I think within the first week of him going on hunger strike, he was, Reza Pahlavi and Shirin Ebadi met with him, and they actually asked him to kind of stop the hunger strike. And he had kind of said, I'm staying true to this, I guess, the hunger strike, and I'm going
to see it through. Actually, I don't know if it was him, if it was Vaheed or his wife, or somebody said, if you're going to do a hunger strike, you got to plan to go for it. It doesn't have any effect if after 7 days you give up or something, So here we are, 43 days in. He's been visited by a number of British MPs. I mean, he's getting attention from everybody except for, I think, the UK Prime Minister. Wow. So anyway, he hasn't done a lot of interviews, so I'm very grateful that he's agreed to do this. Vahid Beheshti coming up in London, live in London in just a few moments. Also, later in the program, remembering the great Iranian filmmaker Kiumars Pourahmad. Now, he's a filmmaker that I think people who were growing up, a certain cohort of Iranians, especially those who were growing up in like the 80s and 90s, and people who were living in Iran more so, because he's not the kind of name like, I didn't know a lot about him, like Mahmoud Baf or Kiarostami or Jafar Panahi, but he's very well known in Iran. Very sad news that yesterday, it seems he took his own life, even though he's in his early 70s. He was dealing with sadness and hopelessness. And so our friend, the documentarian Mehrdad Ahmadpour is going to join us in the Rook Studio to talk about the life and legacy of Kiumars Pourahmad, very well known for this hit TV series, which was
Tales of Majid. That's actually what I know him by. That's the one thing that I...
Now, how did you know that? Because you were too young when you left Iran.
I think I saw an episode of it, like, randomly, either... I mean, I can't say it was online at that time. It was through this, like, Persian satellite TV thing that my grandparents had, and I saw it on that. And I was really young, and so it was something that I would watch with my grandparents, and because the story is this young boy with his grandma... It was always something
in Isfahan. Well, I actually canvassed not just the Rook team, but a few of my friends and a couple of people in Iran, actually cousins and stuff, and yet they all knew the Tales of Majid. So, anyway, obviously a sad story as he was clearly not a happy man in recent times. I think his latest film was up for the Fajr Film Festival, and he declined to go because in support of the uprising. So I even saw some stuff on social media about, like, the regime did this to him, basically the situation in the Vaziyat Iran is so bad that, he was in a depressed place.
Well, he actually, regarding the Fajr Film Festival and him declining the invitation, he was quoted saying, what festival? Why would I go to a festival of this sort when there's, crackdowns that are this bloody and painful? And so he was very vocal about why he wasn't attending.
Hi, Pegah, by the way.
Hello.
I don't know if I said hi.
No, I think we just jumped into it.
Right. Well, let's jump into it, actually. I mean, if you have a couple of news items, we can do them, because I want to get to Vaheed so he's not waiting for us in London. But what do you got? What have you been thinking about?
Well, yesterday was what would have been the 20th birthday of Hamid Reza Ruhi, who was the young man who was killed back in November. And I don't know if you remember, but there was that video of him on a motorcycle that they had put a song over, and it had gone viral, and everyone kind of remembered him. Handsome boy. Yes, he was a very handsome young man who was actually pursuing modeling. And so yesterday was what would have been his 20th birthday. And so what we saw was large crowds that gathered in his hometown of Shahr-e-Ziba in Tehran. And so a lot of viral videos came out of that. And it was really heartwarming to see the support again. It had been some time since we had seen crowds like this gather, especially in Tehran. And it's really the first large demonstration we've seen since the Iranian New Year. The reason that this is significant and why I wanted to talk about it is because there were a lot of women present, as usual, within these demonstrations. But it felt different because on Tuesday, the Supreme Leader actually went out and he made a statement about the compulsory hijab laws.
Right, they've been trying to double down on the hijab thing again.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, we talked about the bill that passed in Parliament, so that had taken place. And so despite that, you saw all these women out full force, still standing strong. So for anyone who's doubting that the revolution is still going on, it is definitely going on. So that was kind of the upside to that. But sad news, with these protests and demonstrations, we always have to worry about the aftermath. And unfortunately, Hamid Reza Ruhi's father was then detained after these protests.
Related to the protests?
Yeah, immediately after the protests, actually. So, waiting on an update on that.
Well, I can up you on the dystopian news of the day, I think, because China, of course, now the greatest trading partner with Iran, or their biggest trading partner, also the biggest trading partner, by the way, with Saudi Arabia. China hosting a meeting of the foreign ministers of Iran and Saudi Arabia today. You would have seen just in the last couple of hours these images emerge. And this is with the, as I've called him, buffoonish foreign minister of Iran, and his counterpart from Saudi Arabia, where they're just like rubusi and hanging out and making plans to open embassies and let's, people can travel to our respective countries. So curious what's going on here. It's obviously not good news on any level, really. But and it's fascinating. And next week, actually, I'm quite excited. On Monday, we have the Swedish MP Azadeh Rojhan coming. But next week we also have Ervin Khachikian, our musical friend who's just finished The Voice Persia. The Voice Persia. But also a policy analyst we're going to have on to talk about. I want to ask about this Saudi Arabian situation because it seems counterintuitive to me. Yeah. How did Saudi Arabia suddenly pivot from funding news networks that are against the regime and everything else, and to suddenly like this fanciful time. We don't have a lot of details about what is emerging from this meeting today that happened, but all of them seem like they're in the direction of a détente or a rapprochement between Iran and Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard a lot. They issued a joint statement, the foreign ministers of both countries, saying that, this was a great opportunity to achieve shared benefits for both countries. So what those benefits are going to be, who knows? And like you said, they've talked about opening of embassies. They've talked about delegations and granting of visas and travel to each other's countries and the citizens being able to do that. And actually, fun fact, or a rather interesting fact, is Saudi Arabia's national airline has already posted on their website flights to 2 cities in Iran. So I think the first city is in Mashhad, and the other one, I'm not sure which one it is. So
fabulous.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay, so it is, we're getting Vaheed Beheshti hooked up here. This is going to be on video and audio. I should mention that we are on our regular podcast platforms. We have this mission with Rook Media to build an ongoing audio-visual encyclopedia of Iranian diaspora identity. And so our podcast platforms are Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple, Castbox. You please subscribe on any of those, or check us out if you're in any of those podcast arenas and you don't normally listen to us there. But if you want to watch what you're hearing, you can go to YouTube right now. We're going to actually put if you're not already on YouTube, we're going to put the video of this interview with Vaheed Beheshti straight on YouTube. And by tomorrow, we'll also put this video of the full interview on our Instagram channel at Rook Media. If you like to get your bulletins in English and in Persian, check us out on Telegram, where we have that's sort of our bilingual channel. It's almost early evening here in Toronto, so it's going to be actually quite late for Vaheed Beheshti. I'm so grateful he's doing this, because in London right now it's probably 10, 11 o'clock. We want to thank people who are becoming our Rook members on Patreon. Now, if you go to our website, rookmedia.com, you can press the Support Us button and become a Rook member, a Patreon member.
Yes.
And this is a subscription for a few dollars a month. We really appreciate this. And if you are a regular listener, a regular viewer, a regular audience member of Rook, and you have the resources, please do become a Rook member, become a Patreon member. It helps us stay alive, but also, as Patreon members, you get special things.
Yes, you do.
And so I had promised last Thursday for those on Patreon, it was this weekend was going to be, was in fact, Oogie's 5th birthday. Now, Oogie is my French bulldog, but also the spiritual leader.
So much more than that.
The great leader of Rook Media is Oogie, who keeps us all entertained and alert. Oogie, the French bulldog who lives in Canada and is especially, and was born in Hungary, but is especially fond of things Iranian, including
a soft spot for kubide.
He loves kubide. He loves kebab. So I had promised that on his birthday, I would give Oogie some, because he usually traffics in the kibble and the, less exciting, maybe a little bit of peanut butter,
right.
Maybe once in a while some, little piece of fish, but he rarely gets kubide. But I noticed one of the times when I had some kebab in the house, particularly kubide, Persian kebab, Oogie went nuts. So I had pledged that for the Patreon members, on his birthday, I'm going to get him some kubide, and we're going to film it, make a video of him going crazy, which we did.
And he did go crazy.
He did go crazy. He was running around in circles, all excited.
Yeah.
So we have put that up for our Patreon members. If you are a member on Patreon, you can go see that now. How does it work? Do they go to the page, or they get it in their email?
Well, they actually get notified. If they're already a Rook member, they'll get a notification. Right. And we've already had a few people comment. So
okay. Because we just sent it out, right?
That's right. We did. We just put it out there, and we've already had a few people say that Oogie made their day. So.
Not only that, but we have a special live event coming up soon in the coming weeks. And if you are a Patreon member, a Rook member, you will get an invitation to that event. So just more incentive to join us as a subscriber. Thank you, Pegah.
Thank you.
Let's get to our first guest and go to London. I'm told he is awaiting us there. You know, the revolution for freedom in Iran and against the Islamic Republic regime has involved a lot of brave souls who have put their lives on the line to try to fight for change inside Iran. We know about the young women and men who have sacrificed themselves for human rights, for democracy, and to expose the murderous legacy of the Ayatollahs. But there are people who are bravely putting their lives on the line outside of Iran as well. Vaheed Beheshti is an Iranian-British journalist and human rights activist, and he has been on a hunger strike that is increasingly getting the attention of the world. His hunger strike outside the UK Foreign Office in London has now stretched to 43 days. Mr. Beheshti, who was arrested in Iran 2 times before he fled the country 24 years ago, is on a hunger strike with one simple and profound demand: put the IRGC on the terrorist list. And right now, from outside the UK Foreign Office in London, Mr. Vahid Beheshti joins me. Hello, sir.
Hello. Thank you for having me, and I'm glad I'm talking to your audience.
Thank you so much for doing this, Vahid John. It has been 43 days, I guess around 6 weeks. I mean, it begs the question, you're a journalist yourself. The first question has to be, how are you feeling right now?
So as the days go by, I'm getting weaker and weaker. 4 days, on the day 40, I weighted myself. I lost over 13 kilogram, and which my doctor says is more than 17% of your weight, which is alarming for him. But thank God, my blood pressure, my heartbeat, and the other 2 times they test my blood, they said the other stuff surprisingly normal to my doctor. He's really worried about my weight, and that's normal, of course. 13 kilogram in 43 days hunger stroke, I think, is normal, but it's alarming for my doctor. Getting weaker and weaker physically, but more determined and stronger internally to continue this.
That's interesting. I mean, a few days ago, you said something similar. You were quoted by the BBC as saying, physically, my body is getting weaker and weaker, but my mind is getting stronger. Tell us how your mind is getting stronger and what that means.
By a lot of support that I received from people, from Iranians, non-Iranians, who now they understand why I put myself under this critical situation, living in the street for 43 days and being on hunger strike. So they pay attention on that. And this is one side of it. From the other side, I have a goal in front of me from the day one, and I meditate on that goal. That goal is prescribing IRGC, which I think at this phase of our fight with Iranian regime and with these terrorists, it's the most necessary step is prescribing IRGC, and we are in UK very close to it. I think, I put it this way: our politicians and leaders, they need more motivation and awareness, which I am trying with all my being to give that to them, and that's all I can say. And so far, I think we had, I wouldn't call it great achievement. We had some achievements which I can see it very, very positive.
Take me back to day one, Vahid. What was the precipitant? When and how did you first decide you were going to take this action?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. It's me and my wife and my friends who they are working with me in all these years, specifically in this past 6 months. We had many meetings with politicians in here, MPs, ministers, and many people. And we had two conferences in House of Parliament focusing only on prescribing IRGC. So, and this process was moving smoothly. Suddenly, we experienced an obstacle, which there were no explanation for it. Even the MPs who they are in direct contact with us, they had no explanation. After our research, we done our homework. Through our contacts, we found out the obstacle is from the Foreign Office. So we were in the position that we have the majority of, for example, MPs, both side of the House of the Parliament, ministers, majority of politicians, I can put it in one way, they are agreeing with this to prescribe IRGC. But Foreign Office holding the government back. That was the moment when I can say it was about maybe 52 days ago, because it was about 1 week, 8-9 days before I started. I thought this is not working. The conversation, the meeting, the conferences, they're not working, because we are talking to converted people. They are in the same field as us. They have the same demand as us, our politicians, but something else holding them back. So I was really, my mind was really busy trying to find a way. So because my wife, she's a politician herself, she's a political deputy for Conservative Party in West Midlands. So she's working with 45 MPs. Then when I come to this, I would say, solution, and because you have to do your calculation, you have to think about many things. You have to sacrifice many, I would say, things to decide it and become certain to start something like that. When I was certain, I shared this with my wife. I shocked her first. Okay, are you sure about this? Anyway, when I was sure, what's your question? What was the spark? So this was all this. I had it on one side, and my wife, she was on the phone with one of the journalists from Iran International TV station when she's got attacked. When she was on the phone with my wife, and she came and she shared this with me. She said, as I was on the phone with this person, she just got attacked in middle of London. That was the moment I thought we cannot tolerate this anymore.
Yeah.
In London, they come here after us in London.
Yeah.
So we have to do something to give more motivation to our politicians. I think that was the moment. That was the spark of this in me. Then I decided.
I can only imagine the first few days too, people were, I mean, with respect, people were probably rolling their eyes and going, okay, hunger strike or whatever, you know. When do you feel like people started taking you seriously? I mean, you've obviously attracted some real attention now. You've been in some major newspapers. We're talking to you. Everybody's wanting to talk to you. When did you feel that shift?
Let me put it this way. For first 20 days, they pretend I don't exist, basically, for first 20 days. After 20 days, and when they found out, no, this person maybe is different, he's getting people, they were coming and visiting me from the day 2 when they found out I am here. And then they saw, no, many people, they come, they see me, they bring me flowers, and they chanted here, they put some kind of demonstration here. It was a small, but it was something to draw their attention. But after the day of I would say day 22, I think I start getting some visit by MPs first started, and surprisingly on the day 24, somebody I don't name, I I don't mention her name. Some of the politicians who said the day 3 when one of my friends and went and saw her to ask her to come and see me and listen to my demands. She said, no, don't involve me at all. She came and visit me. And on the day 26, that was the big day. Few hours before the Nowruz, for the first time in the House of Parliament, UK government recognized officially my hunger strike. So Alicia Kearns, the head of Foreign Committee, asked Tom Tugendhat, the Ministry of State for Security, is anybody from the government willing to go and see Vahid Beheshti, who is on hunger strike for 26 days? The representative of the government, Tom Tugendhat, respond back, yes, I am happy to go and see him, plus anybody from the government who's feeling the threat of IRGC. So that was the first time. Then Alicia Kearns, the head of Foreign Committee, 1 hour after that, she came down herself. She stayed here. It was raining. I remember 1.5 hours with us. And she offered me the facility of her office to go and use that. And I got her support from that day from Alicia. 2 days later, the leader of the House, Miss Penny Mordaunt, raised this again. Few more times raised my case in the House of Parliament. On the day 33, I had my first official meeting with the government, with the Ministry of State for Security, Tom Tugendhat. We had around 20 minutes meeting. And after 15 minutes, I said, there's no point me and you talking to each other here, Mr. Tom Tugendhat, because I'm talking to the converted person. Take my message to the Prime Minister. And many, I can say, majority of papers in UK, they covered my story. 4 televisions, they covered my story. And I said from the day 1, I said, I won't go anywhere. I remain here. I am here to tell our leaders, our politicians, there are still people in the world who they are willing to pay the price, whatever it is, to defend and preserve our values, the freedom and democracy, our rights. And I'm still here. And so far, I wrote 3 open letters to the Prime Minister. He's still pretending I don't exist.
I'll ask you about that letter to the Prime Minister in a moment, but can we just take a couple of steps back? And this may feel repetitious to some people in our audience, but I think it's an important point, because I can't think of someone who's better placed to explain, if you can, very briefly, why this is such an important issue, the issue of putting the IRGC on the terrorist list. Because it occurs to me that one of the reasons we identify with you, one of the reasons I identify with you right now, it's not just because you're another member of the Iranian diaspora, or just because you're somebody who, like many of us, is wants to see a change in Iran. It's because this issue of the IRGC being on the terrorist list is, first of all, there's not a lot that we can do from where we are inside Iran. But outside of Iran, this is something that dominates our mind, not just in the UK, but this has been an issue in the EU, in Europe, across Europe. This has been an issue here in Canada, where we are still demanding the Canadian government that gives all this lip service to supporting the freedom movement, etc., still on the terrorist list here in Canada. So why do you believe, you can explain this to us, that this is the single most effective and impactful move that the UK or the EU or Canada can make to weaken and eliminate the Islamic Republic's regime's threat in Western society?
IRGC, the Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, means Islamic Republic of Iran, and Islamic Republic of Iran means IRGC. So IRGC is everything for this regime. This regime would not exist even a minute without IRGC. That's the main reason of the creation of IRGC from the day 1, 44 years ago. So why this is very important in UK? Because if we break this lock in UK, we will see the other 27 countries in EU. Of course, we had a Brexit, we are separated from EU, but they still have their look on UK. So they are looking what the UK doing. Australia, Canada, and other countries, New Zealand, they are looking at UK. So where I'm sitting at the moment, I can say is the heart of this situation.
Right.
So, and we are very close to it. We are not facing with many countries. Here, we are only one country. We have the majority. We've done the majority of work. Majority of work has been done here. We've been working on it for 6 months at least just now. So we have the majority of politicians who they are agreeing absolutely with us. I'm getting a lot of messages from politicians these days, which they have a big support for me. Elisha Cairns, the head of foreign committee, just yesterday he tweeted one of the news about me from London News, I think it was, and she put the quote on that. Vahid Beheshti with immense strength raised his voice to make us aware that we need to prescribe IRGC. So this is the message of the head of a foreign committee of this country. So we are very close to it. And I know by me, I think this is my belief, and this is what I see as in these 43 days. I think by me putting myself in this situation, some people, they ask me, is it worth it? I say, yes, definitely. Because this is not just about the people of Iran. IRGC is about us, about me, you, me here in UK, you there in Canada. Look, they are capable to shut down one TV station here and do many things, as you aware more than me, in Canada and other countries. So placing IRGC on the terrorist list of UK, and they are in the terrorist list of America, they will soon after UK will be listed on EU, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. And that means Islamic Republic of Iran, it's going to their last few days of their life.
Thank you for that. That was both eloquent and simple, accessible, so that we can really understand what both your mission is and what our collective mission is with respect to this this idea of putting the IRGC on the terrorist list. Can I just ask you, because there's so much speculation about it. People come on this show and offer up a number of different reasons. I'm curious what you really think is going on. This is not rocket science to put the IRGC on the terrorist list. What has been the blockage from the EU, the head of the EU saying we need more evidence, to the Swedish foreign minister saying this would be irrational, to the Canadian government giving us reasons why it wouldn't be fair to do this? I mean, what do you really think is going on that has prevented these governments from taking this extra step that, as you say, would be such a profound move in terms of isolating and taking on this regime in Iran, which they claim to, have issues with when it comes to human rights and democracy, etc.?
Our first problem is this, that human rights are not the first priority of all these leaders that we are facing. So there's a chess game. So we have to play this chess game very cleverly. So, but the reason that let's not forget, Iranian regime, IRGC, spend a lot of, I would say, dollars, billions of dollars. They said about 800 billion, something like that, on outside of Iran, on their lobbies, to buy so many people and do so many activities in past 44 years. So in these past 6 months, so they have their lobbies, they have their people everywhere in all these big media. So they give wrong information to Western leaders, to the leader of, for example, Canada, New Zealand, America.
Yeah.
But just for past 6 months, these leaders start getting the right and true, right information, the facts from some diaspora who they are really truthful. So this is a big, they have worked on this for 44 years. And now we're trying to change the direction from where they were taking these Western leaders. So still there are lots of work. What I heard from the politicians here, and this is not something secret because they said it themselves, and I say it as well. They said in England, what is the obstacle in England? They said the Democrats, Biden administration, hold UK government back because they said their excuse was this: we are in middle of a hostage exchange with Iran, so don't prescribe now, we do it later. I said this is absolutely what IRGC wants, because that's why they take hostages.
Right.
Appeasement policy didn't work for past 44 years, will never work. So the only language they understand is pressure and a strong leadership.
Right.
That's all. If they see a strong leadership and pressure, they change their ways, and that's the only language which they respond to. This is what I said to the politicians here, and I said to the Minister of Secretary of for Security, Mr. Tom Tugendhat. I said I have solid answers and evidence for any excuse that you and your government has that tell us we shouldn't prescribe IRGC now. So I am here with solid answers and evidence.
Vaheed, I have a few more questions in my mind that I want to ask you. I'm a little self-conscious. I don't want to. I feel bad. I want you to. I don't want to tax your health by keeping you too long. But if it's okay with you, you just tell me if you ever want to stop, because I could only imagine that you're exhausted. But خجالت میکشم یکمی. I don't want to keep.
No, please don't be. I'm okay now.
Your experience with this regime and your feelings about the Islamic Republic regime are not hypothetical. You were arrested a couple of times in Iran. Can you tell us what your personal experience has been? I mean, I know this would probably take a long time, but I mean, in a nutshell, what has your experience been with this regime?
We are in war from the moment that I found myself in front of them when I was in Iran and after I fled. So we are in war, I always said. Specifically in past 6 months, because I was giving a talk every day, sometimes twice a day, I always had one sentence behind me, which says, we are in war. Very, I would say, we are in war with the enemy, and we have to be aware of this. So it's war. They're not going to give up the power. They're not going to give up this country. They occupied one country with all this wealth, with power. They're not going to give it up easily. So we are in war, and we're expecting anything. Yes, I was arrested twice. I was lucky I could come out of the country, but always under the threat, always. Because all my family, they live in Iran. Great pressure, always on the family, always messages they get, you will soon see the dead body of your son and your daughter-in-law in the street of London. It's not today or yesterday. We've been dealing with this for past, I would say, 16, 17 years since I get involved seriously 1 year after the Green Movement again. So it was like that, but I accept it. We are in war, and the war is not going to be easy. As you see, 43 days ago, I said to myself, I have to change my battlefield. and I moved from the very warm and comfortable office behind the computer to the street. And I've been living in the street for 43 days on hunger strike, and will continue. But this is the part of the war that we are in.
Were you arrested in Iran for being a journalist? For somehow?
No. I wasn't a journalist in that time. I was just raising my voice, giving awareness to my schoolmates, to the people who they were listening to me, and it was about debating, a lot of debate with your religious teacher, debating with. So it was about this stuff.
Right. So you're not the only person who was arrested for those things. You've had the support, as you say, of many people visiting you in London. You talked about some of the politicians who've been visiting you at that spot that you're camped out at. Can you tell us? There's also been all kinds of well-known people, Iranian and otherwise, I've seen in social media who've been visiting you. Can you tell us what that has meant to you, and if there were? Share with us if there's any visitors that have surprised you or particularly meant a lot to you because you didn't expect to see them there.
I can say I wouldn't expect this much love and attention, to be honest. And I didn't ever even think about this. I knew I have to do something to draw the attention of our politicians here in UK. But from the day one, as you described, people just, I can put it this way, they didn't leave me even for 1 second alone. I always felt so much love and passion from these people, and I get my energy. I say it in my daily talks. I get lots of energy, motivation, and love from these people. Who they are, who they all have the same demand as me. And yes, on the day, on the 5th day, I got the visit by Mr. Pahlavi and Miss Shirin Ebadi. Miss Shirin Ebadi, I know her from before because I used to work because of my human rights activities and the other stuff. I know her, I've been working with her. But Mr. Pahlavi was surprising. And few of these, they all are amazing. I don't know, what can I say? Because there is no difference between any of these people who they come and visit me. They all are amazing. This morning, on the day 43, was hard for me because the night I didn't have a good sleep. Then it was about 8 o'clock. Somebody shouted from outside, Mr. Beheshti, Mr. Beheshti. I thought, because I knew from Forbes they're going to come and interview me today. I thought they are from Forbes. So I was going to say, I thought, okay, if the Forbes, I'm gonna say I will come out of my tent in half an hour. But I said, who is this? Then he started speaking Farsi and he says, I am this person, my name is Ali. I said, who you work for? And then he says, no, I just wanted to take a quick shot from you for my Instagram. And that moment I said, I'm gonna go out now. Because that person, it was much, much more important for me because I know the revolution, the change will happen with the hands of these individuals and with their phones. So I went out and I had a quick interview with this person, amazing person. He was a software engineer. So it's all surprise. And my auntie, I didn't expect my auntie. And yesterday I was talking to a few people here. Suddenly I saw my auntie next to me. She came from Sweden without telling me.
Wow.
That was her second time. Lots of surprises.
I understand you've been hearing from people inside Iran as well, including political prisoners. What do they say to you?
Oh, that's even the most, I would say, amazing and interesting part of it. In each different city of Iran, they put the banner, they write my name on the walls, and prisoners from inside of Iran. This morning, I've got the phone call. I don't call the name, is gonna make. I don't want to make trouble for them. I've got a phone call from somebody in WhatsApp, and these people, they were in prison before, and I was campaigning for them here, and now they called me and they said the other people inside of prison, they just had a phone call from them, and they said we are worried about Vahid. And I promised to them, I said, no, don't worry. I look after myself. And I promise to all of you, I will be alive. I love life. Let me share this with you. Some people in the beginning, the people who didn't know me, they thought, okay, this is a suicide. I said, don't say that. I love life. The people who know me, they know how much energy I have each morning when I wake up. I have many plans for my life, and I am full of excitement, full of dreams, and that's why actually I am here. That's why, because I believe we have to make a difference. Otherwise, why we are here? So I am here, and I love every second of the life, and I'm enjoying. Yes, I am in the very critical situation, but I enjoy the result that I am witnessing here, second by second.
Vaheed, have you heard or are you aware of any evidence that the regime, that the mullahs, that the people in power in the Islamic Republic and or their agents are have you on their radar in terms of the publicity that this? I mean, what about security? I'm just, I don't want to scare you or give anybody any ideas, but I mean, surely you've thought about this because you're making international news now.
At the moment, I can say I'm in the most safest place in London. So in front of UK Foreign Affairs Office. So that's for now. But after that, of course, I've been under this situation, not right now, in past 15, 16 years. But I said, we got lots of threat, we get lots of this, but this is the war that we are choose, is my choice to be in it. So it's the battlefield. It might something happen and it might not happen. I try my best to look after myself, look after the family, my friends, and we all are together in this battle. But I cannot say anything because whatever you say from this regime, they done it. I am one of those people. My blood is not, I would say, more valuable than the blood of Mahsa or Nika. We are in one battle and we are fighting, and hopefully soon we will win. There is only one way for us to win this battle and take the country back.
You said your wife has been so supportive. I know that she's spent a lot of time down there with you. Are you hearing from your family back in Iran, and what do they have to say?
They are very worried, but they've been dealing with me since I was 14 years old. They know their son is not a quiet person, and yeah, in the beginning, the first 2 weeks, they were really worried, uncomfortable. But now the people around them try to, they calm them down. And I said to them, this is the way that I choose. And I promise to all of them, I will be alive, and hopefully we win this battle here as well. Yes, they are worried, of course. All of them, they are worried. But this is the way that we chosen to be in.
There's a concert being planned to support you. Our friend Sepp Osley and others are doing this on April 11th in a few days. What do you make of that? You've become someone that people are organizing concerts around.
I said we all are together. I don't see this as an individual act. and I try to not be proud of anything, because I always reminded myself I try to remind myself to not be proud, because this is a group work. This is a group work of all of us. I am just playing my part, very small, imposing a little bit of cold. Nah, the weather is not bad, and hunger on myself, but majority of the work is with people. We all are together on this in this battle, and the credit is for the people of Iran. For no one is here. I am, and most surprisingly, of course, the regime is not going to stay quiet. They try to label me with different groups, and then with Mossad in Israel, and then with MI6 here, and then with a different group of opposition like Mujahideen and others. And yesterday I said you cannot put a label on me with any kind of glue. So I have been independent. I am belong to the people of Iran, and I will stay independent till we win this battle and take our country back. And then after that, you won't see me in the politics. I have a lot of things to go and be busy with.
You will have earned a great rest. As a final question to you, we started by asking about your health, and you talked about your doctor weighing you and checking you out, and the profound amount of weight you've lost, and the effect that these 43 days have had on you, obviously on a hunger strike. Has your doctor encouraged you to stop?
Yes.
What do you tell your doctor when they tell you to stop?
2 weeks ago, he said, I think you've done your job. Because my doctor is my friend also. My GP is a good friend of mine. And then I said, this is the way that I chosen to fight with this regime, and specifically at this period, IRGC. And he says, all right, your job is to fight with them. My job is to keep you alive. So we promise he's going to keep me alive, and I'm going to keep fighting. That's the deal between me and my doctor.
Vaheed Beheshti, I thank you so much for making the time. I thank you for your determination, and I thank you for your wisdom. I appreciate you doing this today.
Thank you. Merci.
Merci. Khodafis.
Merci. Khodafis.
This is Rook, episode 253. I'm Jian Gomeshi. Remember, for all things Rook, you can go to our website, rookmedia.com, and check out all our back episodes, our different programming, our fun videos, etc. So yesterday, the very sad news emerged that the Iranian director, producer, and screenwriter, Kiumars Pourahmad, had taken his own life in Iran. He was best known for his hit series, The Tales of Majid, which he directed and produced and wrote in the early 1990s. But his more recent years were less successful professionally, and he was said to be beset with sadness and depression and hopelessness. Here to discuss the man and his legacy is our friend, the documentarian and social media commentator, Mehrdad Ahmadpour. He joins me in the Roqe Studio. Hello, sir.
Hi, Jian.
Nice to see you. We usually have you on to talk about football, but I know you have two loves, football and film. What have you heard about what happened with Kiumars Pourahmad this week, and why he may have taken his own life?
Yeah, it was very sad news when I woke up yesterday morning and I've heard that this man, this great director, took his own life at the age of 74. And by hanging. And Jian, it's even more sad for me because I used to live in a not in a place, but like 20 meters far from the exact building that he did it to himself. Like I used to live there. It's a small town called Dehkade Saheli in Anzali, which is near Caspian Sea. And it was a very like old building from Shah era that kind of abandoned because there was a outdoor pool and dancing studio, this kind of thing. It was in the complex. And I remember that I was doing a feature documentary, the Barrett's Silence that you mentioned. And sometimes I went there to like just to more concentrate or to write something in that empty pool. And it has a very like sad vibe. Anybody who went there know what I'm saying. And then I could imagine at that time that when I was there, Kiumars Pourahmad, I haven't seen him there, but I think he had friends there, and then he came to that place. So, anyways,
what do we know about why he did this?
Let me go back because my generation, specifically who grew up in Iran in 80s and 90s, related to his work like deeply, because specifically like a cult film called Shab Yalda, and then the series called Sarnakh, and album Tamr, and then Otobus Shab, and on top of that, the Tales of Majid, as you said, Qisse Hay Majid. Even now, when I'm thinking of those gloomy Friday evenings, like a Sunday evenings here, I can even hear the score of Qisse Hay Majid done by Nasser Cheshmazar, which is barabab 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 barabab. Yeah, it's still fresh for me, even for the next generations, because it's replayed in Iran TV after, and then. It was a very local story, and it was Kiumars Pourahmad actually was very close to the concept that Iranian officials try to follow, like a national cinema or local cinema, like they call it Sinamay Milli. And it was written, the story was written by Hushang Moradi Kermani, which was in Kermani accent, and the way that he actually Isfahanized the story by adding a taste of Isfahani and the delicate Isfahani accent. And
the story of Tales of Majid is about a kid and his grandmother in Isfahan, right? Yeah. And so it's kind of a family series. How would you describe it for those of us who didn't grow up in Iran at that time?
Yeah, it's actually it was a very not well-to-do. It's a poor family, contained just Majid and his grandma. She was actually Kiumars Pourahmad's mom, Parvin Dokhti Yazdanian, playing very sweet. And it was very local daily stories about like 10-year-old boy in a school in the neighborhood. And there's something is very important in Kiumars Pourahmad's life, and even in his death, I think. He always mentioned that I have an unfinished childhood, which I.
That was the name of his book. Autobiography.
Yeah, exactly. And then he sort of extended this unfinished childhood through his film, through his life, and even his death. I'll tell about it. But it's. I was listening to a podcast, which is I really recommend. I really recommend it for the people who like Iran cinema. It's Abadiyat va Yek Roz, or Eternity and a Day, which is doing by Hamed Sarafizadeh, dentist in London. And he had some interviews with Poorahmad, and he was saying that I had a very, very empty childhood when I was growing up in Najafabad. It's a small town close to Isfahan, and there was nothing to entertain. There is no anything that a child may need, like a toy or like a TV. And the only thing which is entertaining Kiumars, the little Kiumars, was the radio. And the stories called night tales, like Dastan Shab. And then it's happened to many of Iranian filmmakers from this generation, because they tried to picturize the stories that they are hearing from the radio, and it made them a filmmaker, actually. So how do you make a film? Like you hear a story and then try to picture.
Sure.
Yeah, and then because he's always saying that.
I love that. Filmmakers were inspired by radio.
Yeah, even Asghar Farhadi is saying that even his first film at the age of 13 was about two guys. It's interesting, you may not know about it, but it's about two guys who's sharing a radio, and one night he's listening to a story, and a tale actually, and then the other one, and they try to tell the story, complete the story.
Right.
Yeah, and it happened to Iranian filmmaker from that generation. And then he always emphasized that I hate my childhood, I hate school, and it's reflected in his films. I mean, Kiumars Pourahmad was very popular like in 80s and 90s.
When you say you were of the generation that he had an impact on, that you would know who he is growing up in the 80s and 90s in Iran, it sounds like you were a fan of his.
Yeah, you can tell that.
And what was it that you loved about his work? If you were to describe to someone what made him different or special, what was it?
Actually, Kiumars Pourahmad is the only filmmaker all over the world that the sentimentalism in his film doesn't bother me a lot, because it's so real, it's so true that you can feel that he's a really, everybody who knew him know that he's very sensitive man, very emotional, and that you can
it wasn't cheesy.
Yeah, it wasn't cheesy at all.
How big was he at his peak? Like when Tales of Majid is this hit series, was he a household name? Did people know him the way they would, in Iran, the way they would know Mehrdad Ahmadpour or Kiarostami?
Yeah, you can tell that. Not internationally, but in Iran, inside Iran, because Qisse Hay Majid was very popular at the time. And then some of his films, like Khaharan Gharib, was The Stranger Sisters, was on the top of the box office and that year. And he has actually many films which sells a lot. And Khaharan Gharib, Be Khater Haniye, and two very like interesting series called Qisse Hay Majid and Sarnakh, which is based on Agatha Christie's stories, but he actually kind of compiled it to Iran. And the other thing is, which is very important to him, which is very important for me about him, is he tried to use many languages and accents of Iranians in his film, specifically in his first series called Ayandegan, the future, something like that. And then in each episode he goes somewhere in Iran. For example, one was Yazdi, Mashhadi. And then for us, because I am a boy who came from Rash to Tehran at the age of 12, and then everybody made fun of my accent there. So it was very interesting. And it happened for Poorahmad in his childhood. He said that when I came to Tehran to ask, the first sentence was asking people is, where is Shahabad, Khiyabun Shahabad kojast? And he tried, I practiced this to speak like in Farsi, in Tehran.
He would have an Isfahani accent?
Yeah, because he grew up in Isfahan. And he said, I practice like 8 hours to say just this simple sentence. And the first man who hear my accent, he says, you Shoma Isfahani hastin? And then it happened for our generation like many times, and now it's very better. But
despite his success, there's kind of a dark, sad underbelly to his life story. I mean, this Shab Yalda you mentioned, this film that comes out in 2001, is based on his life story to a certain extent, and it's quite a sad story. Can you tell us about that? This involving his wife and his ex. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, it's a personal story that everybody knew. Poorahmad know that story because it's actually a one-man show, the film, which is Mohammad Furtan as a like main actor, and he's playing a guy called Hamid Ahmadzadeh, I guess, and it was abandoned by and betrayed actually by his wife and his child. In the film, they leave him to go to Europe, somewhere in Europe, I think Germany in the film, and then just for a travel, and then they never come back. And it exactly happened for Poorahmad in his life. It was, I think, Denmark or they went to Denmark and then go to Paris, and then he had another marriage, and then
he supports them. From the story I heard, is he encourages them, supports them to go on a trip to the West,
because he didn't know,
and they never come back.
Yeah. That actually the story. And then he always said that I still love my ex-wife, and of course he loves his children, his two daughters. And then it's a very personal story. And actually, when you see the film, the loneliness of a man, has its own glory. You know what I'm saying. Watching a man who is lonely on a big screen, it's a glorifying thing. So we always see it in cinema in like Bogart character.
I see.
And you can see it in Furtan, and he plays it very well. And that's why that this like movie relates to many people at that time, and I can say it's a film cult. That's
cult film.
Cult film. Yeah.
It doesn't seem like the last 20 years of his life. He's somewhat prolific. He's making films, but it doesn't seem like any of them were really breaking through. And in fact, a lot of them get particularly negative treatment by critics and people who don't consider them his best work. What can you tell us about his more recent years?
Yeah, you're right. Very negative feedbacks and sometimes insulting. The like in the last 15-20 years, the last film that was almost successful Poorahmad done was Otobus Shab, the Night Bus, which was an anti-war film. And then after that, which was in 2006.
2006, it's a long time ago.
And after that, the other films was, I don't want to say like bad or terrible, but I don't like it. And they hadn't received any good feedback or comment or critics.
Like he lost his mojo. He didn't have the magic wasn't there. What would you say about his? What was it that these films made these films less successful than his earlier work?
Jian, it's actually not only Poorahmad. Many of our filmmakers from that generation, like most of them, like Merjoui, Taqvai, Kimiai. I mean, when you're watching their new films, it's like they're not connecting with the new generation, new era. They're not updating themselves, and it's happened to Poorahmad. And it's a topic that you can talk in the other like episode, because what was the reason why it's happening for Iranian cinema? It happened to some of the, like as you mentioned, we talked before, you mentioned Francis Ford Coppola. It happened to him, and he couldn't repeat their
there's
success.
Non-Iranian filmmakers that have had a good period in their life that can't match it later in life as well. It's not unique to Iranians to have a fertile period as an artist and then not so later on. But it does seem like it's interesting reading obituaries about him that are all kind of walking the line of saying, even the ones that talk about how great he was as a filmmaker, saying this guy's life seemed pretty sad. He wasn't living his best life in recent decades.
Yeah, as I was saying, that he has an unfinished childhood, and he's very sensitive. Everybody know how much sensitive and emotional he was, and then I think that he couldn't bear this this position of being forgotten or not being in spotlight, or I think it wasn't like acceptable for him to be in this position. I mean, because he was so sensitive. I think I can imagine that he's not happy with the with this situation, and then as you said before, that it's happening for the men at this age sometimes even more than women, and I don't know why, because they always wanted to be on top, or because I've heard that in social media many people try to relate this like suicide to Iran government. Of course, we have a depressed community. We have a depressed society,
and it's hard to sort of carve out anyone's life who lives inside Iran from what's happening around them. And I should mention his most recent film. It was called The Case is Open. It premiered at the Fajr Film Festival this year, but Kiumars Pourahmad did not attend.
Refuses
as a gesture
to go to
in support of the uprising in Iran. So he was clearly not a fan of the Islamic Republic regime. But do we know? I mean, I saw some comments in social media that the regime killed him. I mean, not literally, but that, you know, his hopelessness and his unhappiness with the plight of Iran had kind of fed this depression. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I know. Actually, yeah, you're right. In the last 3 films he made, he refuses to be part of Fajr Film Festival, and it was very courage. I mean, I admire him because they need this filmmaker to be in Fajr, and they ask him, and there are a lot of like money and then opportunities there that he refused. But you cannot say that this death, because when you're saying that, it seems like you're encouraging people to commit suicide, because it happens to all Iranian, and I know that we are in the situation is depressing, and we are in a like a collective trauma we are living in, even out of Iran. But for him, I think it's more personal. He was kind of man who really wanted to be always on, not top, but at least in spotlight.
Any idea why somebody like him wouldn't have left Iran and come make movies in the West or something? I don't know.
Because I can't even say one example that Iranian filmmakers who left Iran could repeat their success here. Yeah, because they're very connected to Iran. I was saying that even in Iran they are not connected to the new generation, right. Let alone here.
Thanks for coming in and talking about this. I thought of you right away. I knew that you would have a relationship in terms of your interest both in film and your expertise, but also generationally with Kiumars Pourahmad. If somebody were to want to see his work, and you were to make one recommendation that somebody can hopefully find somewhere on the internet, what would it be? What's the film you would tell people to start with?
Of course, Shab Yalda and the episode Sharm, which is a shame, in Qisse Hay Majid. And I want to add something in my language. I mean, not Farsi, in football language.
Oh, I was going to say, okay.
I don't want to encourage anyone to do this to themselves, but you know, sometimes you know that you're underdog and you want to show yourself, you want to prove yourself that I know how to play with a stronger opponent. I know the way of being underdog. I know how to surprise it. And I think it happened to Kiumars Pourahmad. I just guess, but I think that he don't want to just like waiting for his death in the hospital in a very bad situation, and then okay, I know I'm underdog, you are stronger, I will surprise you. At least I can I will finally die, but at least I can choose, I can select the way of dying. Again, I don't want to encourage anybody to do this, but I think that's happened to him. That's basically what it is.
Mehrdad, thanks for being here. We have to come back and talk football again as soon as
Arsenal win the title.
I didn't say that.
I want to say that. I want to wish that.
There's a code amongst Arsenal fans. We don't say that. But
good. Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
Brother.
You're welcome. Bye.
Mehrdad Ahmadpour, live in the Rook Studio. And this is Full Time for Rook for today. Remember, for all things Rook related, you can go to our website, rookmedia.com, where you can link to all of our content, all of our platforms, and press the Support Us button to become a Rook member. Thanks to the amazing team who put this show together, talented Anahita, Super Parisa, Smart Pegah, Savvy Roham, Aray Mehrdad, and sound person Louise. Thank you to all of you out there for supporting us and sharing our content. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already. You can find me on Instagram at Jian Gomeshi. And as ever, remember the mantra, Mizun Bashi.